Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and Disembodied Hands, Quindy. Man, Quindy, I'm out of analogies. Man, I'm just out. I should have looked at what day it is. Wait, what national day is it today? It's Mountain Day in Japan. In the mountain range of our lives, I hereby declare Quindy Mount Everest. That has everything to do with the heights you lift us to, Quindy. And then we've got John. John's a pretty good Midland mountain. I'd give him the Olympian mountain range or something, pretty scenic and covered in trees for the beard, Myself, I'm a Mount Rainier kind of girl. That's my favorite mountain in the world, I think. Yeah. Doesn't Everest kill lots of people? I'll take it. And it's up to you guys whether Justin gets a proper mountain or he's just a speed bump. A big butte. Oh, I love it, Turgeon. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Yes, obviously a Scottish mountain. Yes, we can all be our favorite mountains today. I got my powered USB thing. But I haven't stolen David's webcam to set up the puppy cam yet. There's plenty of time. It's only 8 days till I leave. Yeah, it's like that. Plenty of time. Yeah, I mean, but roads kill people too. So it's all things like that. All right. Hey, I've got green stuff. Yes, we're going to do some sculpting on Kit Abyss. Murder Mountains. Oh my gosh. Ice cubes. Hey, I like, I don't know, I'm on an ice cream kick. Like, I have not historically been a huge ice cream person. Like, not since I went kind of, I have a problem with like dairy sometimes, so it's like I haven't historically been one, but yeah, like now that there are good non-dairy alternatives, I'm like, I could go for ice cream because it's been hot here. Like, we made the mistake of having a late supper last night, which meant that we didn't, the house wasn't open and airing out when it started to get cooler, so like it kept a lot of the heat from yesterday, and now I'm desperately like opening doors this morning, putting fans in them. And yeah, the heat makes me want ice cream. So maybe it'll be ice cream shopping trip today. I don't know. Like, that's perfectly okay, right? All right, here. Let's see. We've got Kitty. So Kitty has a very loose texture on his base. It's a very, very subtle, just kind of scratched in stone texture. You can kind of see it there. You can kind of see one of the flagstones there. Just very loose. So we can play with that, and we're going to probably put extra stone texture on that, and I'm going to blend in these bases. And this makes and kind of make it into like a rounded, like he's up on a dais or he's about to go down the steps in a dungeon. And we're going to build up on that. Cashew milk. Yeah, I'm a fan of coconut milk myself. Cashews are dicey for me. I have little bits of them sometimes, but I love coconut milk. Like, it's my favorite thing. Coconut milk and coconut cream. I've been a coconut fan since I was a little kid, so that's my favorite. There are some really good coconut milk ones. Yeah, the problem with cashew nut and the nut milks in general is they tend to be much higher calorie. But yeah, it depends. I mean, it's ice cream, right? So I stick to my coconut milk ice cream because I really enjoy it. Alrighty, so this is old green stuff here, this little strip that I've had hanging out for a while. So old green stuff is great to use for basing because when you're doing stones or groundwork, obviously it doesn't matter if your green's a little lumpy. So that's a really good use for green stuff that you feel might be getting a little over the hill. Because when it sits around for a while, what happens is that this section where the blue and the yellow come together, essentially starts to cure. And what happens is then your yellow usually is the prime culprit, but it starts to get lumpy. Even parts that aren't directly touching the blue will just start to age that way, and it won't be able to do a smooth, thin layer anymore. So, yeah, I do like iced tea sometimes. Although this year I've been all hot tea, so perhaps I'm less heathen. Um, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna mix up all of this stuff because we're gonna be I need to put a thick skin over everything, and then I need to build up the bottom just a little bit so that it's not quite as tall of a step. So I'm gonna pretty much like use my fingernail to kind of do this. You could use a sculpting tool as well. I keep my little bag close because plastic bags and such are really like, don't give the green stuff anything to stick to. So when you like, and don't kick yourself, but like this center section is just trash. Like it's already like cured, and it's really just not useful. So I mean, wrap it in like a tissue or something. I have paper towels already in my trash, so I'm just gonna stick it to one of them. Otherwise, it will stick to your trash container. So do wrap it in something before you toss it. But yeah, just toss it. Don't agonize over the fact that you're wasting 15 cents of your green stuff or something. Hendrik, have you been sick a lot this summer? Is it just me like remembering other people, or it just seems like you have not been at 100% for a while? All right, I am going to squish these guys together. You can see I've got slightly more yellow than blue, and that's just the way that the strip works out. If you look at these, they tend to go that way. But you do want to keep the ratio fairly close. You don't want to go too far in one way or the other. Slight adjustments are great. Like a little bit more yellow than blue is what I'll use when I'm trying to make a nice thin coat to blend in. Because having it be a little softer and more pliable and take a little longer to set up is good at that point. If you're trying to bulk stuff out, then going a little higher on the blue is like nice because it'll cure a little bit harder. It'll cure a little faster. So it all depends on what you're doing. Yeah, it just seems like you've been having a lot of trials and tribulations lately, Pendrick. So I hope that you can overcome them and get past it. Have you been to your doctor? I hope. But yeah. Hope you feel better soon, Pendrick. Well, however you choose to go forward. All right. So I've got my it's a uniform green color, which is what you want. You don't want to see any streaks in it. If you can see streaks, it's not cured. It's not mixed. And you want it to be uniformly mixed. I've got my water. I've got my sculpting tools. Let me get out. For my initial layer, I'm going to be using metal sculpting tools, which are often wax sculpting tools, or they're repurposed dentist tools. Let me get out my favorite suspects here. Got a bunch. There we go. There's a big, gigantic spoon with narrow spade. These are two shapes that I like to use a lot. And then for more angular rocks, we want proper spade. Or I've used this one before. I've got two versions of this tool. One is longer and pointier, and depends if I want to really be able to cut more or to poke more, to make little holes. Then I want the pointier one. I often use the dulled one, though. It has a slightly better edge for cutting rock shapes in, whereas you can see the edge here is a little more blunted. So that is good. If you want to just poke patterns in, but the pokey tool is a good one too. You can see that I've actually used this as a pokey tool at some point in the past, but from the paint on it. And I do want to get that off of there if I'm going to use it as a sculpting tool, because it's going to stick. We won't use Tiny Spoon right away today, although I may get him out later. But we're mostly blocking in big rock sections. And another thing that I'm using or keeping close at hand is cork, so that I can texture my surface with. I'm using the smaller cork because it's got a more subtle texture. You can still get a good stonework texture off of it. You can see how rough and bumpy it is. But yeah. Yeah, I'll vote with Twisted Oma. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. It's the best thing you can do for yourself when you're sick. Drink lots of water or other fluid. And if you can't keep it down, then little sips. But if it's been more than a day and you can't keep it down, I'd say, yeah, go to the doctor. Take care of yourself. But that. I am not a health professional. Not a health professional, so. All disclaimers. Alrighty. I'm going to make a long strip. I'm essentially it's a flat kind of oblong. And I'm going to use this to wrap around the base to start the work. I want to start kind of close to the top, but I want to kind of make a ribbon, a sash, if you will. We're giving a cummerbund to the base. This one isn't maybe quite enough green stuff, but we can at least start. So we'll just kind of wrap it. Wrap it around for starters, then we're going to smush it around. And I'll get around to the back eventually. I think we're going to use Giant Spoon for the start of this. It makes sense to use Giant Spoon because we want to kind of round it around. I'll probably get another little strip there. I want to fill in the top area at the same time. I can tell that I have areas that I need to fill where I've got an indentation. Oh, Rhonda had a Tiny Spoon? Yep. Yeah, they're from Jean's sculpting kit. I mean, and Rhonda's been at Reaper for a long time, so she probably also got one of those when Jean was doing those classes. Very useful tool. Very makeable by yourself, though. All right, so now I'm going to tap this little snake. Worms and cummerbunds. That's what we're working with today. And it's very sticky, the green, at this point. So if it gets stuck to itself, you just got to kind of pry it off and convince it to go elsewhere. If it sticks a little bit to your tool, add a little bit of water to your tool. And that way you can get it to go where you want it. The back here, we just want to round off and smooth off as if it's just the back of a piece that just cuts off and is painted black. Then as we come around, we'll do the stonework texture. But whenever you are sculpting part of a base and you just, you're like, I don't want this to look like it's still, I don't want him to look like he's standing on a round stone thing. I want him to look like the floor keeps extending back here. Just smooth it off and paint it black. Have it cut off suddenly. That's a visual cue to the viewer that the scene does extend further behind. It's just that it's out of frame, quote unquote. Now we're going to start smooshing this down. I'm using some water. I do have a big gap there, so I'm going to add more green. I think it's much stickier than a fondant. Alrighty, so I'm gonna make another kind of worm here, and what I've got is, you can see that I've got kind of where it's coming up, it's not going to come up straight. Not enough green stuff there. So I'm going to pop a little bit more green in there. And again, when I'm not using a section of green, I'm going to pop it onto my plastic here so that it can stay handy. There. So I've just popped that right over the top there. We're just going to blend it in. Now, if you do have a lot of water down on the putty, you're going to have to essentially wait until that dries, or take a tissue in to wick it off, or do something to bring the stickiness back. See, I've gotten some water underneath the green here and it wants to come up. So down here, I can see the water every time I push it, and I can tell it's not sticking to the model underneath. So now the rest of it is sticking pretty well, so that'll probably save it. So in this case, I just have to kind of be patient, kind of squeeze it so the water kind of comes out, and force it up against the model here so that I'm able to ice my base. I can see the frosting analogies. It is kind of like icing a cake at this point. Now, when you've got these seams, I'm going to pull some of this green stuff up to hide that one. I'm going to press the rest of this down. Remember, we've got a cork layer and what essentially comes out to a plaster layer, like that white goop covering the cork is modeling paste from Liquitex, which is it's got stone bits in it, like ground up stone to give it strength. So it's very much like a plaster in some traditional plaster in some ways. So I kind of treat it as a plaster product. It sets up like a plaster. So we're just kind of like moving around. Now remember, we've got plenty of time to work with this green, so we can take a little time and not have to worry about sculpting into it or smoothing it out right away. We've got a seam line there that we need to work on, for example. Hey, Julie and Bob, we're playing with green stuff. It's your kind of show. Modeling chocolate. Ah, one of those. Sculpting tool overboard. Oof. So yesterday the puppies took their first ride in the car, guys. Because Bridget is an awesome breeder. So the point of all this socialization, some of you may have been, who are maybe used to like just walking in and getting a puppy from a breeder who's just been raising them in the house and, you know, whatever. The point of all this early socialization is actually based on brain development in puppies. Puppies are they go through this period where they're very accepting of new experiences. And then that window closes pretty early, and that's what they call the fear period, essentially. So the puppy goes from a point where it'll accept a lot of different experiences and just kind of like factor them in as part of its world, to a point where it's very wary of new experiences. And so if you expose the puppies to new things that you want them to be good with during that key time frame where they're accepting, it'll only like take 1 or 2 exposures to get them to accept that thing. Whereas if you wait until they're in the fear period and then you're trying to get them to learn that something is good, it could take like dozens of repetitions. Just like a baby, yes, Agent Marvel, and it's the same thing. It's the brain development thing that mammals tend to have, right? Because when the world is new, then they have to learn how to exist within their structures, right? Within their social structures. But then as they get older, they need to learn to be afraid of the world and of strange things. And so the reason for all these early socialization protocols that good dog breeders do is it's the same as a baby. And because dogs develop so much faster than humans. Okay, so here I'm going to actually, you can see that I've gotten water underneath there. Like it's kind of loose. See how it moves? So you know that particular one, I just got too much water. It got under the edge of the green, and now that part of the green doesn't want to stick. But we can still work and smooth it out. So the rest of the green is sticking, so that one's not as concerning. I just got to remember that factor is down there. Oh, so you're playing with green stuff too. But yeah, so that's the reason for all this early socialization stuff, which you know, some people is bunk, say it's bunk, but it really is super important because, like with a baby, you get, you're the parents, you have the baby from like, from day 0, right? Pretty much, except once you get out of the hospital, the baby's development is on you. But with puppies, because they develop so much faster, the breeder really needs to get involved if you want a really good start. Like that's why getting a good breeder, if you are getting a purebred, if you are, or even if you're getting like some mixed breeds, like that are commonly used for performance sports, like have the same quality of breeding program behind them, like popular mixes like the Border Collie and Whippet, which are actually lovely dogs. It's a lovely mix. May have breeders that do this too. But it really just helps the puppy have a really good start in the world and accept a lot more things very easily. Makes it easier for you, the new owner. Shocked, not shocked. It's cute, Crowley. Yep. Okay, so we have our fondant base. But we still have some things to iron out here. As you can see, the front is kind of coming together well, but I'm going to grab my clay shaper here, my rounded one, my chisel tip. Just driving around. They went through a drive-through. They stopped at a gas station. Ben was driving and Bridget stayed in back. She said they did the interstate as well, just a little section of highway driving. They did it 2x2, so the puppies didn't have to be totally alone, because again, they're not used to that yet. That's but 2x2 is still fairly, less around them than they're used to. And she said mostly when they hit the interstate, just like babies, they fell asleep. But they tried to give them the experience of going to a gas station, going through a drive-through, and doing the interstate acceleration, deceleration. And remember, Bridget is doing this for 8 puppies, so they had to do 4 of those in their time off of work, right? So it's a lot of work. Okay, so my green stuff is a little bit slanty. I need a harder front, a harder edge. But I think I'm going to work on some of this, and then I'm going to put the top on. And then I can always build this out with another layer, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, my dog is going to be in the car from pretty much like the moment she leaves, for 3 days. So she's going to get a crash course. And what I have heard from other owners who have done this with their dogs, like there was one family that came from New York to Oklahoma to get their puppy, a litter that I did the evaluation on. But they pretty much said that, having such a long car ride immediately, like at 8 weeks, just made their dog really, really used to the car, like really familiar with it. So as long as you can make sure they have a good experience, at least as much as you can, then, that's actually can be a good thing, can acclimate them. Hopefully my puppy will acclimate well. All right, so I'm going to be a little more careful with my water here. And I'm going to try to keep it up on the top of the surface. Yeah, because this one still doesn't want to stick. Not a lot to do about the green getting underneath the surface here. There's not a lot I can do. I can see it coming up there where it's kind of like not sticking down. That is the water. There's not a lot I can do except to wait. And I may need to go over that surface again once the green is hardened. I get it in as much of a shape as I want it. Like I try to get it as close to what I want it as I can, and then I just kind of let it set. And eventually the water will evaporate or it'll get trapped in there. It doesn't so much matter for us because we're just doing this for a finishing product. If you're actually sculpting a model, then it is a big concern. Yep, and different breeds are different on that. These puppies can hold it for a couple hours, and that's about how long I can hold it. So, when I stop to stretch my legs, plus with my back, I have to stop frequently. I am not a 4-hour road tripper, Crowley. I have to stop every hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm pretty sure that the puppy might be able to hold it better than me, or at least the puppy's back is better than mine. Oh, big puddle of water. Okay, so that can be a problem because that's going down into that hole there. So let's grab a Kleenex and I changed the light on my light. There we go. And just kind of take a Kleenex very gently. If you can get a tip down into that area to absorb some of that water, then you're good. Just got a little bit over the top with the water there. Yeah, it's just the way, you know, some of us are just that way. No judgy, no judgy. It just means I take, and honestly, with my back these days, it's good that I take frequent breaks. Like, it generally makes road trips far more doable for me to take the frequent break. So again, I've got some water underneath the green here, and this little tongue here wants to come up. But I'm just going to keep smoothing and try to get it as good as I can as far as the shape I want it in. Now, this is stonework, and so we do have some leeway here. Like this seam here, I could easily turn into just like cracks in the stonework. So it's not, stonework is a great way to just kind of start working with green stuff because it's very like low risk. As long as you can, like, even if it's lopsided, you can just go in and fix it by adding more green later. And any, like, seams that you have, you can take your sculpting tool and make them proper cracks in the stone. So you don't have to get it perfect. This big metal tool is decent at smoothing. I'm using water to kind of burnish the surface. But then we've got our clay shaper. Morning, Thormel. So you do need water on that. And you want to roll the shaper across the surface. And it helps to smooth out any little seams that you have. Put a little bit of pressure on it. So I can use either tool. Either my metal big flat kind of big spoon tool. Or my little clay shaper. However, I feel it kind of depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a very large area and trying to really blend in the green, I will use the silicone because it keeps, it leaves less tool marks. But yeah, this base is looking a little lopsided and weird right now, but that's all right. Like I said, we have time. We have time. But we do have a rounded, we have made Kitty up on a big step now. Big step. Big step Kitty. And then we'll kind of blend this in and go into these stones that are loosely sculpted here and make them a little bit more. We'll blend in that. And then after that, toward the end of the stream, we should be able to just take our tool and score in some bigger blocks of stonework on the stairs itself. So for each of these little, see the little flagstones, I'm going to put down a blob of green. That I can just make it, essentially to bring it a little bit more up in relief, right? So right now this is a very flat flagstone. It's very just kind of scratched in. So we're gonna take little blobs of green, little balls of green, and put them down and make them into bigger flagstones. There. We don't need them to be perfectly positioned, we just need them to be close. And I'm also going to raise up the floor a bit down here so that I can both texture it and so that I can make the step a little bit more shallow. Let's see, we've got another stone back here. I'm just going to grab my tool at this point and put it back there. Come on, get down there. Stick, you. Sometimes the putty wants to stick more to the tool than to the floor. There. But I've got that big blob of water on there now, so I need to take that off. Blook, 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 blook. There. All right, we'll start with those, and then we'll flatten them down. And the best way to flatten them down is to use your giant flat tool, or something similar. You could also use a spade tool. You're just going to leave probably a little bit of tool markings. Yeah, that's what I did for a long time, Kodiak. But if you are interested ever in doing, oh no, I forgot to put water on my tool. That's what happens. That's what happens when you forget to water your tool. But yeah, if you're ever looking at like doing any like little basic conversions or little sculpting for basing, like this sort of thing is a great way to learn how to work with green stuff. So I'm going to plop those down in there and they make nice little round round things, but we don't want them to stay round. So now we're going to grab, when putty attacks your sculpting tool, use a 10. I thought there was plastic on top of that, and there wasn't. So the blue stuff is especially insidious for this, guys. The blue stuff it looks like innocent. The yellow stuff would try to convince you that it's more goopy, but actually the blue stuff is the insidious stuff that will slowly meld onto your desktop and never come off. So be very careful, because the blue stuff is goopy slime. It's blue slime. Just don't, be careful. Be careful, it will go everywhere. Yeah, I mean, cork is a great thing, but I do like these modeling pastes that I got. A little, like, it depends on what you're trying to do. Like, for doing definite forms, like, if you're trying to do a definite shape, a type of shape, then green stuff over the cork. But if you are trying to just kind of bulk in an area before you go in to make more specific shapes, like I am here, then the modeling paste can be really good. Like I used it to fill in a lot of the irregularities. So now I'm essentially using my spade tool to push the green stuff and make it more of a irregular flagstone type shape in line with the underlying shape that Julie has sculpted here. I just want it a little bit more raised up, so I'm working with it that way. Just got my little button of green, and then I'm pressing it out and making it into more of an irregular flagstone type shape. It's really, really simple. Slime attack, yeah. So like if you're scared of using green, you can always reach for like modeling pastes and stuff first. Yeah, see, we've got a bunch of water getting in here, so we want to pull that water out. I'm going to use my previous, like I said, this crack that I didn't blend in, I can now make into stonework. And you can bring it right up by the foot, so you can blend it in. Usually I'm putting a line around the foot anyway, so it doesn't need to be a perfect blend. But you do want it to look decent, so just kind of use the tip of like your spade or some other pointed tool to bring it in. Now we could make a big crack down where this seam line is. I tend to just do a dotted line first and then figure out what I'm going to be doing here. I'm kind of looking at the areas, like the shapes underlying this. You can see that bulge up there. You can work with that. Definitely do want to get some water on your tool. Now I do want to have kind of a more solid stones in some places. So I'm kind of just sketching in some shapes. Just a dotted line. There we go. So we've got some nice stony shapes in here. And then when we get around to the back, I am going to smooth it out and just go pretty much fade it out probably when I'm painting. But I want to take water in here again and make sure that I'm smoothing out this back bit. Starting to set up a little bit more. I can tell that it's more resistant to shaping. Using the edge of my sculpting tool to just press down the green, trim in that back edge so that it's like flat and round. Yeah, it's a good way to just start working with these materials. Like basing, like I said, is very low risk, high reward. It's doing anything is going to give you just a little bit nicer effect. Flagstone back here. You need a couple more balls, as you can see, a couple more stones in there. So let's bring this one in, and then we'll see where we need to put another ball of green stuff. I'm gonna grab this and push it to where I can see the edge of a flagstone that Julie has sculpted, this edge right here. So once I've got my blob down, I can push it in that direction. Try to make it meet up with that edge. So I'm actually just mirroring exactly what Julie has done. I'm just, you know, giving it a little bit more relief, right? A little bit more height, making the stones stand out a little bit more. All right, I need to fill in some areas. I need a couple more blobs for stones. I need one tiny blob for stone. To make sure your blobs aren't all the same. You do want blobs that are very small, like to fill in that little notch that I've got right there. So there, I'm going to actually put down this tiny blob and grab it on the tip of my tool like so that I can place it. I'll try to smush it down. There we go. So I had to smush it a little bit, but that's fine. I had to be smushing it anyway. Then I'm going to smush it to fill that space, like so. And it's impinging a little bit on the front part, so I want to make sure to put it cut in there between the two stones. Can take my tool and pull this one a little bit more into alignment with the other ones. I want slight cracks between them, but nothing huge. Now I can press this back toward this foot. Make that little stone right there. You can see the line there that if I need a really sharp line, I can take my hobby knife and use it as a tool, but the edge of this particular spade is pretty good too. There, like so. I've got a lot of dotted lines here to make into more rocks. But I want to fill in this top part and fix the back part here. I'll answer that one. It needs to set up completely, Twistedoma. As far as curing times, Julie and Bob can answer your question for sure. Depends on the heat of the room usually. I usually give it a good 24 hours before I paint it. It doesn't require that much, but I just do. I'll do the green stuff one day and then I'll paint it the next day. Flatten this down, work it around the paw. I like using my spades with their edges to kind of tuck the green stuff under the paw so it looks like it's organically done and not an add-on. And this little edge up here, I'm going to tuck up and around. I've used epoxy, but it actually betrayed me pretty badly, Mac Attack. In that it doesn't stay good like green does. Like, I found maybe if I would have frozen it like green, I would have had better results. But mine definitely went bad very quickly. Depends on how much you're using, like, and how much you buy. But I definitely found it messed up a project for me, and I like that you can thin it with water like Milliput and make kind of a slurry with it to blend things in. What I found is that I reached for it a lot less often, though, after I learned how to blend in green. That said, everybody should try it. Like, if you're looking for... If green frustrates you, epoxy sculpt can be a good way to get in, and as pointed out, it does dry. It sets up very, very hard. Much harder than green. I used to be a big Aves fan until it went bad so quickly. May have been just one batch too, but I just decided after that it wasn't worth keeping around for the amount of work that I did with putty. And I just went to green, which I knew would stay good really long time in the freezer. I don't know, I got less enchanted. Like I said, as I learned to work with green, I got less enchanted with Aves. But it's always like what you want. Like, some people just really love like Milliput or Aves, and it works great for them. And it's just like, again, it comes down to what works for you. You have to try your own things and make your own decisions. As with everything in life. Everybody will give you an opinion, but whether that opinion is true for you is up to you. Uh-oh. Oh, iffy. Hold on. I'm in a sensitive part. I need to stick down this little blob. There. Okay. Now we can sing. Ah! Triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary, triple sub-anniversary. Happy triple sub-anniversary to Iffy! Yay! Round of applause, everybody! Round of applause! Yes, you can use green stuff in a green oven. I actually have one of the old green ovens made from coffee cans that Reaper was using for a while. With a light bulb in the top. I have one of those. But yes. So now I've got to get kind of careful here, guys, because what I've got setting up here is I can very easily put my finger into what I've done. So I'm going to squish it down on the Centaur's old base here. Just into the putty so that it'll hold it, so I don't have to worry, because now my hands are... And it's worth using a bigger block for this, because then my fingers aren't going to get anywhere near the green. I do need to make sure it's stuck down very well so that the pressure I'm putting on the green is not going to push the mini right off this base. So just put a little tiny stone there to fill that gap there. And also remember that you don't need to make these like anywhere near perfect. When you paint it, you're going to be able to kind of paint plastic surgery. So you'll be able to kind of adjust things with just the way that you paint things. So don't think that you need to get all of this like way awesome, perfect. You absolutely can have little blorfs in there with the green stuff, and it's still going to look great. But yeah, for those of you who have a hard time blending in green stuff, the Aves epoxy sculpt that Mech Attack mentions is actually a good thing to play with then. When you add water, unlike with green where you're just making your tool not stick to it, when you add water to Aves, it makes kind of a slurry. It dissolves a little bit. And this makes it very easy to smooth in when you're trying to get it to blend with other surfaces, when you're disguising gaps and joins. And then again, as he mentioned, it's got a lot of strength to it when it sets, right? So if you're using it to blend a seam on a model that you've put together, especially like a big metal model or something, it's old school, it can add strength to the join. Yeah. Do be careful with heat on bones and bones black. Good point. Good point. Yep. Heat and climate absolutely affect cure time. Like it was fairly cool this morning here. But my house was warm. So my cure time here it's setting up a little faster than it would normally. So I'm just using my tool and just playing around and making some you can see the stonework is starting to really come together. Having stones be at slightly different levels isn't a deal breaker. In fact, it's like a natural stone floor. Like where stones would sink or they would get worn down. So this kind of effect is very realistic. And same with if you have some tool marks on your flagstones, that's just fine too. Actually, the problem here is I'm liking the back better than the front at this point. I know what I can do. All right, yeah, so cork. Cork. The green is set up enough now that I don't need water to do this. It can mar up the surface and add some texture, some randomized texture to your flagstones. Then allowing you to play off that, see how that's added in some crumbly texture, some more natural texture. I'm just kind of tapping it on the surface. I'm not like really digging it in. The more the green sets up though, the harder you're going to have to hit it to get it to take the marks. But like that. It helps get rid of a kind of a plasticky toy-like surface if you've got like a surface that isn't looking natural. I need to get a little bit of a longer piece. Sometimes you want to break off your cork and make yourself a sculpting tool. So you can get that area in there. So that's a little bit more of an irregular surface. It helps to hide any tool marks that you may have. I do not want to do it on this back shiny part. I do want that to be more where I can just paint it black and let it go. Now that the putty is more set up, I will come back with my rolly tool and smooth it out. Back here where I don't want any texture. So it's nice and smooth. As smooth as I can get it. Once I paint it black, really small imperfections will go away, but just make sure you've got it where you want it. I try to generally get as many imperfections like rolled out as I can. Because once you paint something a smooth matte color like black, it'll disappear to the eye, but if somebody looks at it, if there are any imperfections, they will show up. So that's pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. It's pretty flat, so I'm happy with it. The front now has a little bit of work to do. But again, we're working on in an old dungeon stairway, and that's where doing ruined areas and stuff like this is very forgiving because you don't expect it to be perfect. Now I can. Yeah. I don't want to, yeah, I had a rock that I was using, Pendrake, but I actually like the cork a lot for this. Now, when I'm using a tool, I'm going to lose a little bit of that texture, so I need to remember that I need to maybe come back in. But right now, I just want to turn my dotted lines into solid lines. So I'm using my spade tool with a nice edge. And I'm cutting into the surface. Now the cool thing that you can do after making these cuts is you can stick your tip of your tool in and kind of pull the two sections apart as if you had done this method down here. And then you can push them back when you push them back together, leaving a little rim, you can disguise the fact that you did a totally different method. Do watch for little sections where you can insert a tiny little crack or stone. You want to vary up the sizes of your stones. And I'm going to make this one kind of go out here. This is where it's going to start to blend into the back, so I need to remember that. And I'm just going to fade off some of these lines. So that's a cue to the viewer that, hey, this is just fading into darkness. It's behind the model, and we're not worried about that area. Now, if I have a lot of extra goop at the bottom of this, I can grab it, pull it down a little bit, make small stones on the bottom here. I do want to put a layer of green here too, but this helps me to make a more vertical surface by doing this cut, taking out some of this green that's kind of puddled at the bottom. The nice thing about this blunt spade is that I can also insert the tip underneath a stone, again, to kind of bring that out into relief. And then you can see that it's made a flat spot over here, but I can take it and push, keep that kind of flat spot in the edge of that, and it becomes almost like it's a separate piece of putty again. Now I've got some finer joins up top than I do down below because I was doing the different method, but I can insert my tool and separate them out a little bit more. It's not a big deal. Now, if you want random texture, you can also just like take the tip of a tool and kind of stipple with it. You need to be pretty random with it to get a good non-repetitive texture though. Yeah, the allergies are definitely on me lately up here. There's something in the air. The trees or the flowers are informing me that there are allergens. And boy, do they have them. All right, let's see here. I like this stone. This is where you're going to notice if anything underneath is not stuck down firmly, by the way, because it's going to start pulling out. Oh, cool. Non-slip shoe pads. Oh, that's really good. Hello, Major Arsenball. How's it going? Yeah, we're working on the dungeon base for Kitty. I want Kitty to be exploring a dungeon. Yeah, look at guys, look at the progress, right? We turned our block of base metal and cork into a proper stony plinth stair. Yeah, give it to David. Give it to David. David Diamondstone he's my fairy. He's like, you need to make a list. Yesterday I was talking to him. I'm like, and you need to give this to Julie, and you need to like do this and this, and you need to get me a new pokey tool. He was like, you just need to make me a list, or text me when I'm at the con. But I don't trust texting him at the con. He'll probably look at his texts like, at 1 a.m. every day and then forget it by the next morning. Because con, right? That's what you do. The outside world does not exist. It's all about the minis. All right, so I kind of made a little jumble here because there was a little piece of cork over here. So I'm going to double down on that and make it a proper little tumble of stone. But I did get some water over there, so I need to take that off first. There we go. I'm going to get my little bit of green and plop it down there. Yeah, better stuff to do than check texts at ReaperCon. Exactly, Lord Zyphrius. That's why I'm like, no, I'm going to give you a list before you leave home. Because, yeah, see, that's not going to stick because that's got a little bit too moist. So we're going to let that sit for a second. We're going to work on the other parts while we wait for that to dry off. All right. Now we need to get rid of our dotted lines that are here. So we're going to carefully bring our tool in. This is where we're doing a little bit more micro work. So I tend to use, this is where I would whip out Tiny Spoon if I wanted to do really tiny stone bits. But yeah, I really appreciate it, Julie. Thanks. I can still get swag even if I'm not at the con. David gets the best part because he gets to deliver presents to the sculptors. I'm going to put a little tiny rock up there too. So putting some tiny stones in there too really helps. Helps to give the organic feel that you want. Oof, I've gotten more water. I've foiled myself. I wanted to let this dry off, but then I needed water to work with these stone bits. And now I have gotten more water down in my little rock pile here. Oh well. It happens. So I'll just keep working on these other stones that aren't going to be affected by that. But I am going to bring in my tissue. Just kind of dab off. And again, as it cures, green gets a lot less sticky, so me bringing in a Kleenex really isn't going to affect anything. But yeah, my prediction, as I said the other day, is that after going to this ReaperCon without me, David is going to be like, never again. You're putting in a new little stone line there. The green is still soft enough to etch this stuff into it, so we're all good. And any line that's a little bit rough, again, you usually can kind of disguise it with paint. And again, we're going to just leave some of these stone lines back here trailing into the dark, because that's all going to be painted black. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that those lines are solid and not dotted. And we'll let them trail off. Trail off into the ether. Make this stone flatter. Give it a little bit more of an edge. And when we get little nicks, like we've got a little dot there and a little dash, that's fine. Those are just like you would get in stone. Scrape marks and pits. So it's all good. Kitty is on his fondant layer cake of stonework. +1. Okay. Can email too. But yeah, I can totally tell him to text me a question if you want. It's all good. Alrighty. That's looking okay. I think I can work with that. But yeah, remember, I mean, this isn't the end all be all. If you decide that you wanted more texture on this at the end, if you if you let the green set and if you start to paint it and you're like, oh my gosh, no, this needs more X, Y, or Z, you can always put texture paste over the top of this. You can always put another layer of green work over it. You can, you can slice off parts of it and redo it if you want. Like, that's why I say it's a very, very low risk, very high reward, because chances are most of it you're going to be like, oh, this is cool, and maybe there are a couple areas that you're not as happy with, but you have time to fix those. Like, it's very simple. So the biggest advice I can give you when you start working with green is to relax and just play with it. And remember that nothing is irrevocable. Because it does not dry super hard, you can take an X-Acto knife and just slice parts of it off to redo. I have found that the biggest key for success with green work for me was to calm down and just take it very slowly, and to remember that I've got, like half an hour to work any given portion of it before it starts to set up. So you have time. Just take your time. Try not to rush stuff. Just play with it. Learn how it works. Blook, 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 blook. We're just taking some green stuff. I may not even need to do that pile of stones because my floor that I want to rise up the floor a little bit, raise it up. It may actually be high enough that that'll bury those little rocks, and I won't have to worry about them after all. Haha, win. Flattening down this shape of green. Once again, I've got a little bit too much water. I like to use the edge of the Kleenex to kind of get down in those cracks. Or a flat, straight up edge. I can also use my tool, if I'm very careful, to press down the Kleenex into those cracks and take out the water. See? Magic. So now I want to press this over. I may need to do a separate piece over here. Boom. Just pressing down to flatten this edge. Bring it out a little. Press it down. Bring it out a little. Press it down. And I mean, if the green sticks to your tool, just back off and get some water on your tool. If the green starts to pull up and you can see that it's not sticking, you probably have water under it. Grab your little Kleenex. Bring it over, and if you have to get it into a really fine crack, especially you don't want to do this when the green is fresh, but when it is set up, it's no longer sticky as much. You can essentially get that little bit of water out of there by just using your sharp tool and pressing the Kleenex one layer down into the crack. Yeah, so I will leave Friday next week. So I will not be on Friday, and I will not be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, we're kind of leaving. I was going to be back Wednesday night, but now, because I don't know how bad my back is going to be for the road trip, the last leg is a real brutal, 12-hour one. So David and I agreed that when it gets to, after I see how I am for the first couple days, if I have to, I'm going to stop in Reno on Wednesday night instead of coming all the way home. But if my back is doing okay, then I'll be back. But we don't want to plan on it, and I still need to get the puppy settled and return the car. So that being a thing, I will not be on I'll be gone Friday to Friday. Pretty much I'll be back the next Friday. So it is a full week of puppy stuff. Yeah, a puppycation, right? So this worked out really well, this little floor that I put down here. Notice how it's made the layer cake not quite so tall, even a little bit. makes a difference at this scale. I'm going to put in one little piece of green back there over those rocks. Oh, need a little bit of water on the tool. Remember that you don't need puddles of water on your tool. You just need enough to enable you to squish down the green that you're working with. This green does not want to go down. It's very sad. It was like, no. Sit. Stay, green stuff. Stay. Do you ever talk to your green stuff, Julie? You always like, sit, stay. Be good. Smooth out, dang you. There we go. A little bit better. Get it. Ah, it just does not want to stick there. It's just like, no. All right. I'm just going to smook it down and be done. Splook. Ah, get in there. Ah. It's fighting me. It's fighting me. Be patient. Be patient. Keep working with it. Trying to convince it that it wants to do what you want it to do. There. Much better. All the time, but not so polite. Hey, Ultra Squid, how's it going? We're doing dungeon floor. So I'm not even going to bother to blend that in. I'm just going to make it a stone. And then I'm going to make this a stone. And then I'm going to make this big one a stone. Then I'm going to make a big, big stone over here. And a smaller stone. And a stone. So I'm kind of scoring in where I want to put flagstones. I'm going to use the edge of the tool. Just score those in a little deeper. This is where if I really want them to be thin, I'll grab my hobby knife, and I might just do that because I'm making these more or less much straighter shapes. So to start out, and you definitely want to dip your hobby knife in the water for sure. But this can give you very straight, if you want very straight lines, using a long straight tool that's very thin and has a sharp edge like a hobby knife or a slightly dull hobby knife can be a good idea. And that gives you much straighter stone lines. Now I'm going to rough these up because I do want them to match with the stones above a little bit. But this was my start. To start, I wanted nice deep cuts that were regular. Yeah, Twitch is twitchy, Ultra Squid for sure. So yeah. So yes, you guys are going to have a week without Anne. You're going to have to figure out what the heck is going on. And when I get back, then you get puppy reward for being patient while I was gone. And then you go away and abandon me during ReaperCon. So turnabout is fair play. So you see how I'm rounding off the edge of these guys. And like this one is more irregular, so I'm going to keep that. So I'm coming up in here and essentially I'm using my spade tool again to kind of crimp off the edges and round them a little bit so that they do look more like rounded edged stones, and that way they fit into the whole thing here. So yeah, ReaperCon is coming. Get your competition entries done. Haha. Everybody just had an anxiety spike because of me. Except for the people not going to ReaperCon. We're going haha lol. But then also, oh, because they wish they were going to ReaperCon. All I can say is it took a brand new shiny puppy to actually keep me from going to ReaperCon, so pulling this out a little bit toward the edge if I feel like I haven't gone far enough out into the base. Like so. Yay. Okay. Kitty! Kitty on dungeon base. Ta-da! That really gives him a lot of height. Like that was one where, you know, we could have lowered it a bit if we had cut all of his base off of his paws, but then we would have risked like really losing, like really damaging the paws, and I didn't want to do that. Yeah, kitty. Kitty. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, this looks pretty good. And then the back is just going to fade in. We're just going to paint that black. And yeah, I want to do a little bit of corky texture. Just a little bit to mar up the surface and make it a tiny bit irregular. Give it a little bit of texture. I really like cork for giving just real subtle stone texture to 28mm stuff. I think when you're getting into bigger models, then maybe it pays to like get an actual piece of stone and do the actual, like, depending on the type of stone you're using with, to get an actual rock for rock texture. But I think for these little guys, real rocks actually won't give the texture at the right scale. So I like my cork. Yeah, that's true. Kitty found the highest step. He does look like he's raring to go though, doesn't he? He's like, I see evil and I am going to vanquish it. So I like it. It's good. Oh, I see I've gotten a little bit over his little claw right here, so I need to fix that. So do while your green stuff is still pliable, do make a note of looking around, like places like the foot, just to make sure that you haven't buried a claw like I had. Oh, that piece just does not want to stick. Stay. I might have to glue it on in the end. But yeah, so doing this sort of a base is just really good, low stress practice for green stuff. It really gives you an idea of how long you can work the green stuff, lets you relax with it. It's just a base. You know, if you do have imperfections, you can kind of paint plastic surgery. You can hide them with paint, or adding on additional details, that kind of thing. So it's a very, very high reward experiment. There we go. We got a bit of an irregular floor here, but it's a dungeon. That's kind of what you expect. It's not perfect, because we definitely have, I feel like, a bit of a sunken area here. Now, when you've got a little bit of an irregular base here, because I can see that the dips here toward the front, one way I could have doubled down on this, which would be very cool, is if I'd kind of made like a puddle, like, right, and then made liquid coming down here and made another puddle down here. So that's a way I could have played to the irregularities of what I've done, and, you know, kind of like it's a feature, not a problem kind of mentality. So you can always think about that as well. So I think he's pretty cool, though. I don't mind that he's a little bit, I don't mind that the base is not perfectly level. I think it gives it a more organic feel, and it's tilting the right way. His hind leg is up just a tiny touch higher than his front leg, which makes him really look like he's going to pounce forward at any point and vanquish evil. So, yeah, I like this. This is good. I think we did a good job, guys. Here, let me look for puppy pictures. I don't think there's a lot. Let's see here, because Bridget was doing car yesterday, so there's pictures of the puppies going into the car. Like there are little, let's see, yep. They're like, let us out, let us out. All just hanging out, sleeping. Oh. Little pupper faces saying, what are you doing to us? What are you doing to us? I think that's, yeah, that's Vex. So, off in the car for things. Oh, there's Keyleth. Keyleth saying, but can't I do this just as well in your lap? She's just got those eyes. She does have that that look at you thing where she just gives you, there's her little paw. Her little sad paw saying, please let me out. I want to be in your lap. She's a lap dog. She's going to be like an 85-pound lap dog when she's grown up. But yeah, so her, like, with her big brown eyes just staring at you. Yeah, exactly. The huge eyes, right, Kodiak? That's what she's got going on. That's Keyleth. Let's see here. What do we got? And then Bridget sent me... Let's see. Bridget sent me text yesterday that was funny. Let me see if I can find it. Well, there's just a cute one with Vex. That's a black boy, black collar boy. He's Vex's twin. He's a dual. He's a cutie. He's got the inquisitive look going on. He's very sweet. Oh yeah, cool. Oh yeah. Post it for sure, Iffy. I'm interested because you were trying to figure out what she was, right? And there's another one here. Let me find it. Oh, and speaking of Pike, there's our Pikey. So that is Purple Girl, still in the running. One eye closed, one eye open, going, are you taking pictures of me again? And then this is a good one. I like this one a lot. So this is Percy and Vex. So Pink Girl and Blue Collar Boy, who are really partners in crime. They are always like playing together. They really like each other a lot. Yeah, and look at his fro. Percy's got the fro going on. And then Vexy is my current favorite. And then dishes to before, poof, and dash to after. She won. So, no, it's a different Pike, Pendrake. So there we go. So very cute. Very cute. Very cute. The face of, what just happened? But yeah, his curly fur is really funny. I can get why Bridget can't get over it. He's really got a neat look. These are going to be cool looking pups. Like, I can't wait to see what they look like when they grow up. Your Pike is 5 years old, yes. You definitely have the first Pike. Yeah. So I think those are the cutest ones that I got sent. Let me see. Oh, hey, Kuro, here's Ugly Scarf. Ugly Scarf! See, I finished it. It's all its tails got woven in and stuff. Now I'm working on a different project. And I can start learning new stitches. I have to learn how to purl. I think that's all the big. Let me see if there's one more picture back down on the rest of this. No, not really. Oh, couple pictures. Oh, he's trying to take a selfie with Grog. A little more challenging than Percy. So there's my friend Bridget, and there's Grog. Grog says, "Nom, I bite you." He says, "I will bite your hair." Okay, you can hold me stationary like this and get a selfie with me. There we go. There's the face. That's Grog. That's totally Grog. And that's totally a Shiloh Shepherd face, by the way, with the tongue hanging out the side of the mouth. Yeah, that's our breed, pretty much. Oh yeah, Percy knows how to relax. He'll take the selfie. Yep, no problem, Crowley. Yeah, that's a good one. Funny. Anyway, they're funny puppies at this age. They're all about the nomming. Eat the face, yep. Random placed fringe. Yeah, I didn't like the fringes, so I decided to weave them in. Plus, it was kind of therapeutic to weave them in, honestly. But yeah, so cool. So what we did today, a lot of green work. Any questions on green stuff, guys? Any questions? We even have a big blob left. I didn't really need this new fresh blob that I got out of the freezer. You can see the stairs from the top there. And I'm gonna wipe off my tools here. But yeah, I finished a little early. Weird. Weird. We have like 5 minutes, so if you have any questions, guys, question, ask. Oh, hey, I can show you the new kitty. New kitty. New kitty. I Zenith primed him, but we are going to also go and do a sketch on him because the Zenith didn't carry real bright. So it's a basic kind of Zenith. It's very faded. I didn't hit him really hard because I didn't want to overdo his details. So it's usually better, like having random bits to put on your base is useful, Pendrake. But it's a little bit better, I think, to have a putty catcher. I just have misplaced my putty catcher. It's around here somewhere. But yeah, so Kid and Mage, except I think we were going to make him a Necromancer, right? I thought he looked for like a pretty good, like, kind of evil druid kind of thing, but, you know, because he's kind of ratty. So yeah, so we'll do the Kid Mage. I had ordered the Kid Mage, so we'll replace once we've got like Mr. Shining Paladin, cat guy. Then we'll go to the Necromancer or Evil Druid, depending on how I want to do it. Yeah, Necromancer. Yeah, it could be a washed up shaman or a druid. Yep. Yeah, I did Zenith, but we're gonna do we're gonna essentially make the Zenith harsher. Like, I want more of a sketch on here. It didn't carry as brightly as I wanted, and if we leave it this dark, then it's really not going to do his job of making highlights stand out better. So yeah, we're going to be doing, when we start this one, we're going to be doing white, pure white thinned, and we're going to do essentially a sketch to bring out details before we begin choosing colors. And while you're doing the sketch, is actually a really good time to pick colors, because you're focusing on the details, and you're kind of figuring out like how many layers of cloth there are and what the little details are, and it's a good time to think about what kind of colors you want to use and stuff like that, and when you're figuring out the areas of the model. But yeah. No, I'm not doing, I already did the Rogue Big Apple a while ago. But I really liked, I had bought these two at the same time. Because I really like these two of the Catfolk. I think the Rogue and the Fighter / Paladin. Yeah, Paladin. And then the Mage are my faves. So that's, I mean, the Rogue is already with Ron. Grumpy Cat went to Ron along last ReaperCon. I'm really fond of this guy, so I'm not sure about Mr. Paladin. Although David was like, you know. But he wasn't sure that Mr. Paladin had earned a place in the case. So might go to Ron still. Depends. It might get done by ReaperCon, so it might actually go to Ron like in 2 weeks. But yeah, I'm not doing a bunch. I just really like the Catfolk. They're a nice change from humanoids. Like, as far as human skin tones and stuff, you can do different stuff, which is why I've been choosing them. That, and they're just fun sculpts. Same thing for doing like gnolls, but we also have like we have a Dragonborn, like the Dragonkin guy, pirate. So we're going to be doing a dragon guy too. I wish we had more Dragonkin, actually. Because it's the same thing. You can use a color for the skin or the fur tone, and that changes your decision process on the rest of the colors of the model. Like, the fur on the Paladin is definitely a main player. It is a color, So you have to go neutral with a lot of the rest of the model when you've got, and this is the same with any non-human skin tone. If you're doing like a teal-skinned mermaid or something like that, or water sorceress, it means that becomes a color. It's not like most human skin tones are neutrals. And suddenly you're not dealing with that anymore. Suddenly you're dealing with the skin tone itself being a color, and that means that it does limit how many more colors you can put on the figure.